And welcome back to Let's Play Fear and Hunger 2, Termina. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video for this series, largely due to the fact that the update for this game still has not come out, though Orange has dropped some video footage and screenshots and the like, and the reason I'm going to be recording this video is that there's a handful of things that I didn't really show off in the Let's Play thus far, and the game is going to undergo some mechanical changes going forward, so just to cover those before I forget, I'm going to just be doing a little bonus video covering the backstories that we have yet to see, as well as showing off a few extras and other things that I didn't get a chance to show off in the main Let's Play. Luckily, I have files prepared for this, as well backstories, you know, that's easy enough as starting a new game, so let's do so. First order of business is we're going to check out Daan's backstory. Daan is a character I actually like a lot to play as, and I think he has a pretty interesting story overall, so it'll be cool to show this one off. Of course, we just give him the normal name, no Z appended to the end. Let's check out his backstory. Of course, we don't want to skip the character history, because we are all about the character history. The soothing sound of the rail tracks. You're not used to such peaceful and tranquil atmosphere. You can't help but let your mind wander. You reminisce of what has led you to this point in life. Since you were a toddler, you had been traveling around the Europa with your parents. Your parents were devout followers of the older god of fertility and creation, Sylvian. Because of the nature of Sylvian's cult, in each new town you'd witness your parents putting on their rabbit masks and heading to the meadows naked with all the other cult members. You hated this life. Your parents would be more concerned on the matters of religion than you. To make it worse, they even tried to pass on the healing gift of Sylvian to you. For those who know how the cult of Sylvian operates from the first game, this has some pretty disturbing implications, all things considered, and what Daan does next is perhaps unsurprising. From very early on, you learned that no gift comes without a price. With Sylvian's gift of healing, you saw how the mental state of your parents deteriorated over time. They spent longer and longer times on the meadows until one day, they never returned. You were 13 years of age and alone in the Kingdom of Rundon. You had to do something for a living. Now, the options here lead to two very distinct skill sets here. Now, if you try and find honest work, you'll get nothing immediately, but you'll be led to a choice that allows you to pick between either the skill Analyze or the skill Organ Harvest and Medicinal. Both of those skills are pretty situational and gimmicky, and I don't care too much for them. Becoming a pickpocket, on the other hand, you didn't have any natural talent as a pickpocket per se, and the underworld of Rundon was very rough on you. You weren't cut out to be a street thug, so you had to rely on the only skills you had for the money, the healing gift of Sylvian. You ended up starting a street praction of medical care where you'd heal people of all social classes. You soon became surprisingly adept with the healing gift of Sylvian. You learned Loving Whispers, and your affinity with Sylvian grew. Now, Loving Whispers, of course, is the healing spell of the game, and a very potent one at that, restoring in the ballpark of 80 to 90 hit points. But the other nice fringe perk of doing this is that it also maxes out Daan's Sylvian affinity. So from the moment he reaches the Hexen, he can also learn Healing Whispers. This is very good, and in my opinion, this alone makes Daan a high-tier character, and very, very good for completing the game with. Highly recommend using him and going as a pickpocket here, because this is such a good starting perk to have. One day, the local doctor and aristocrat, Baron Einher von Dutch, came to your dirty office out of curiosity. He wasn't familiar with the Sylvian's teachings. The modern medical care worked with very different concepts and methods where magic certainly wasn't included in the curriculum. Nevertheless, the Baron was fascinated by your otherworldly means of healing and was impressed by the results. He made a proposition to you that you simply couldn't turn down. He offered to take you in as his apprentice, and in return, he only asked to learn more about Sylvian and other older gods. You agreed and moved to his huge manor. The first one to welcome you was the daughter of the Baron, Elise von Dutch. Something inside you changed that very moment as the two of you locked eyes. As time went on, you became an item with Elise. Everything fell into place very naturally, and even the Baron gave you his blessing despite your background being anything but noble. For the first time in your life, everything felt just right. But this wouldn't last for long, as something terrible had been brewing in Eastern Europa for a good while. The conflict between the Eastern Union and the Bremen Empire had dragged many neighboring countries to take part in the hostilities, and the Kingdom of Rundon was no exception. The kingdom was enlisting all able-bodied men to the front lines, and you had no choice but to pack your bags and join the Great War. Because of your knowledge in medicine, you were given an option to join the army as a medic or pick up a gun and join as an infantry trooper. So, if you join as infantry, normally Dan will start with a scalpel as his weapon, which is slightly stronger than other starting weapon options, though not quite as good as a Bella's wrench. Should you choose to be an infantry, though, you can get a pistol with some bullets for it. Honestly, the pistol is not terribly useful and the bullets run out quick, so for my money, joining as a medic is the better option. You're given a scalpel, a light blue vial, and pep pills. And yes, that is a pretty good amount of items to get here, so absolutely recommend taking this route. But I suppose the pistol has some uses if you want to go that route instead. The war was cruel and inhumane. You had to take part in countless things better left unspoken. The only thing that kept you going was the thought of your new family waiting for you back home. Every night you'd read letters from home and fall asleep to a photograph of Elise. One day the letters ended. It was natural for letters to get lost in all the chaos, but you couldn't help your ominous feelings. So when the Kingdom of Rundun finally withdrew from the war, you rushed straight back home as fast as possible. The manor of Von Dutch was lifeless and dark on that gloomy day. You stormed through the countless rooms and couldn't find a soul in sight. That was until you found the basement door partly open. In the darkness below, you could only tell apart the silhouette of a person who had died standing in the middle of swirling ritual circles. Person was Einher von Dutch himself. He had died on the spot from what seemed like self-inflicted wounds and cuts. Each corner of the basement had sacrificial gifts to an old god unknown to you. Your heart sank as you recognized just who was the main sacrifice of this maddening rite. You tried to save Elise with any means necessary. You tried to exchange vital parts of yourself for the life of her, but that didn't work. You tried unspeakable methods for days, but it was all in vain. She was too far gone. It's widely speculated that Dan utilized the Magna Medicinal and exchanged his eye in an attempt to revive Elise. A cult had completely swallowed the Baron while you were away, and you could only guess what he had tried to accomplish with this unholy ritual. Upon searching through the Baron's documents, you noticed a certain place mentioned frequently, time and time again, a town called Prehevel in the country of Bohemia. The place had something to do with the beliefs of the Baron, and maybe there you'd find at least some sense to this madness. It wouldn't bring you back to your old life, but frankly, you had nothing else going for you anymore. Only this small clue on what took everything away from you. Answers. That was enough reason to get you back on the road. How did you prepare for your trip? So, you can stock up on the standard options, or you can bring some alcohol to fuel loving whisperers, which I think is the optimal choice to make. You managed to find a bottle of beer and a bottle of vodka, so 80 additional mind to work with. It's been a long and mentally taxing travel to this point. You hope that whatever you find from this small town could at least give you some closure to your sorrow. Now, we're not going to go too deep into Dan's, playing through the game as Dan, but I do want to note that Dan has some unique interactions with the enemy's needles and stitches, so it's definitely worth picking up his diagnose skill to see those unique interactions. But that's neither here nor there. We're just going to go back to the title screen, and we are instead going to look at Levi's story, and we actually are going to be doing a couple things as Levi. Like how his class is ex-soldier, I am almost positive that's a Final Fantasy VII reference. And once again, just go into fear and hunger mode. Levi was a very taciturn individual, so this is probably our best opportunity to learn a little bit more about him, as he was not forthcoming with information about himself. Not really. So, once again, we're not going to skip the character history, because that's what we're here for. The soothing sound of the rail tracks. You're not used to such peaceful and tranquil atmosphere. You can't help but let your mind wander. You reminisce what has led you to this point in life. Prehevel. It's your hometown, even if it has a tainted past painted all around its narrow alleyways. The painful memories would start from that one night. Your parents were arguing downstairs. The argument would heat up like always and would turn into a fight. Your mother charged inside your room in desperation. She locked the door and pushed it with all her might. First, the odor of old vodka carried over to your room. Then you heard your father's heavy steps walk up the stairs. Your father started bashing down the door. Now, for Levi's first choice here, he can choose to pray to a god, which will allow you to select one god to gain one level of affinity with, which actually does have some interesting applications and allows Levi to somewhat easily branch into spellcasting. However, I am more partial to the option of standing up against your father, whereas this option gives you plus 25 to your maximum body. And I feel like this is less of an expense at the... or this choice, taking this one, it's less of an expense at the cost of something else compared to, say, Marco taking this kind of choice. Your efforts didn't matter much before the drunken stupor of your father. It did raise your maximum bodily resilience, though. With your mother gone and your father drinking in the gutter, you were taken to the Perheval orphanage. The place treated children awfully, and all kinds of rumors circulated on why kids would disappear occasionally without a trace. You couldn't wait to get out of there as soon as possible. Unfortunately, your wishes were answered sooner than you could have guessed. When the Second Great War started, the Eastern Union recruited every able-bodied person, no matter the age, to fight for the motherland. You were only 13 at the time, but they still dragged you with them. What kind of weaponry did you specialize in? So at this point, you can pick a gun to start with and get some ammo for it. Now, pistols, not really worth taking unless you choose a specific option in a future choice. But rifles and trench guns, on the other hand, this is a really good option to take. I like the trench gun the most since it allows you to take care of a couple problematic enemies. Plus, just having one from the word go is useful in its own right, but rifle is also a viable option since disabling an enemy by shooting off both of their arms with a rifle makes fights so much easier in its own way. For this specific version of the backstory, though, we're going to be going with the trench gun. You got a 12-gauge trench gun and 3 12-gauge shells, so we've got the ability to insta-kill one enemy and heavily damage another, and if we manage to pick up at least one shotgun shell, we can instantly kill another enemy. Nice stuff, nice stuff. You excelled on the battlefield despite your age. However, you grew bitter as you saw younger and younger kids being recruited and killed as the war dragged on. By this time, you're already responsible for your own squad of child soldiers. You were given a mission meant for expendables, one that would be a guaranteed suicide mission. You're already growing tired of what happened. Grow tired of the haphazard way of distributing troops, and the general morale of the Eastern Union Army was starting to show its cracks. So, this is a critical decision here. Should you choose to take the mission, Levi will get a perk related to the gun that he picked, and will get a heroin addiction. So yeah, bit of a give and take there, but accept that it is mostly take on the game's part, because... well, for starters, we picked Trench Gun, so the perk we'd get would be Executioner, which is a bugged perk that doesn't do anything. Now, if you took pistols, on the other hand, you'd get Gunslinger, which allows you to disable enemies by shooting their arms off, much like with the rifle, with the pistol instead, which is a much more economical, weapon, since you tend to get pistol bullets in much greater quantities, plus the pistol itself gives you the most amount of ammo should you decide to start with it. However, I'm not really a fan of that build. It's decent for what it is, but I don't really care for it. Should you abandon the sinking ship, you won't get anything, but you also won't get the heroin addiction, so pretty much any gun is, it's better to just take this in most cases, unless you are really, really set on doing Gunslinger. And even then, one little secret to Levi is that if you skip his backstory, he will start with a pistol and 10 bullets and the Gunslinger perk, but no heroin addiction, so he's one of the few characters, in fact I'd say he's the only character in the game, where it might actually be more worthwhile to skip his backstory. Now normally I'd abandon the sinking ship, but what the heck, it's not going to matter too much for this video. Let's take the mission and fulfill our duty. You survived the mission despite impossible odds. This increased your proficiency in your branch of weaponry. You learn Executioner. Unfortunately, the mission had its toll on you as well. Your psyche couldn't handle all the losses on the battlefield, so you had to take opioids to ease the pain. You formed an addiction. You got heroin and withdrawal symptoms. Yeah, heroin withdrawal lowers your stats by 30% once it hits stage 2, and it hits stage 2 in about a matter of a minute, so this is a pretty hefty drawback for a perk that does literally nothing. For the record, Marksmanship, I'm not a fan of that perk, but Marksmanship gives you, I want to say it's like a 25% chance that a rifle shot will instantly kill an enemy when you shoot them with it, so not really that great, too random for my taste, but some people like it. You couldn't stand up for this any longer and became a deserter. The Eastern Union wouldn't forgive such crimes, so you had to pack up wisely for your escape. Levi's unique choice to take with him into Perheval is additional ammo. Of course, ammo being for any gun that you happen to pick. We would absolutely love to have more 12-gauge shells, so we get 2, allowing us to insta-kill another enemy. Nice stuff, nice stuff. How long has it been? Feels like a lifetime since you left the town. It's not a place anyone would want to return to, but when you got no other place in this world, you are left with no options. Alright, so we're not going to save our character history here. We're going to skip the intro, of course, and we're going to get right down to brass tacks and start getting to the main things we're going to do within this video. There's a couple things I learned about between recording the previous sections of this Let's Play and recording this one, and I wanted to show off some of those because they're pretty interesting. I also wanted to go over a handful of skills that I completely ignored. We're not going to bother looting the suitcases on the train, since we're just going to get right to what I want to show off for this video. So we'll blow past these. Hey, Tanaka, we'll just leave him to his brooding in the corner there. And let's just blow past this. Sorry, Moreno, we need to be going. And that is the game started. Now, first order of business is I want to show off a secret that was relatively recently discovered. I think it was like a month or two ago this was found out. There is actually a hidden cache of items right outside the train. So if you go west of the train and come to this little spot in the grass here and press the interact button 3 times. 1, 2, 3. What's this? Well, the game doesn't tell you what it is, but if you go into your inventory, you'll find that you got 6 rifle shells, bolt cutters, and a bunch of matches, 10 matches overall. Additionally, if you go to your weapons, you'll find out that you got a rifle. Very nice. It's a very cool thing to have gotten there, and this allows you to get into Preheval using the bolt cutters, if you so desire, plus the obvious benefits of having a rifle to shoot enemies with. So that's pretty cool. But there is another method of getting into Preheval that was recently discovered. A few people have known this for a while, but it was only relatively recently that this information was shared with the general public, or at the very least widely spread around. I'm saying this like it's like some kind of dirty government secret. We're just gonna let the woodsman do his business over there, and just go straight into the town. Yeah, he's hacking away. Alright, so, entering Preheval, we're going to equip our trench gun. Just get that locked and loaded. Ooh, boy. You check the functionality of the trench gun without even thinking about it. Your old habits are kicking in. The gun creates a familiar feeling of safety. You wonder if you'll ever be able to leave that past behind. Yeah, Levi has a litany of demons that he needs to work out. Unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing that in this Let's Play. Whoop. We'll let this lady go around. So it was relatively recently, relatively recently, it became well known that you can use the trench gun, if I can juke all these villagers so that I can do this work uninterrupted. You can use the trench gun. Well, let's just go up to the gate and show this off. If you stand right in front of the gate and shoot with the trench gun, you can shoot the padlock off. A moment of surprisingly realistic gameplay in Fear and Hunger. Yeah, many people did not think to try this, but yes, you can use the trench gun. It has to be the trench gun specifically. In theory, the rifle should be able to work if we're just going off of the realism idea here, but in practice, only the trench gun actually does anything, so the pistol and the rifle does nothing for us. There's Needles, he's gonna harass us, or at least attempt to, but that's not gonna amount to anything for him since we're just going back to the title screen. Now, that is not the only thing I wanted to show off in this video. As you can see, I've got a file here where we're once again playing as Lake Heron, and we're just going to load this up because in this file, I learned a bunch of skills. Oh, whoops, hold on, this is in the bunker. Sorry, losing track of my files here. We're gonna load this one up. I learned a bunch of skills in this playthrough that I did not bother to learn in the proper Let's Play, so I wanted to show off a couple of those. First order of business is I learned Pav's skill tree. Let me see. Got Unguard, Bury the Trauma, and Order Charge. Now, Order Charge is kind of an interesting skill. What this does is you use it, and at the end of your turn, every character in the party will launch an additional attack at a random limb. If you use it on an extra turn, that doesn't do anything. Instead, it just queues it up for the end of the next normal turn. I'm not sure if using it on an extra turn in the normal turn actually accomplishes anything. I'd assume it would just be a waste of 40 additional mind, though. Mind Read is a skill that I learned from Rare. When interacting with certain characters, this gives you additional bits of dialogue that illustrates their thoughts. Honestly, I think this one's kind of annoying because it mostly just pads out conversations with an extra text box that doesn't really tell you anything too interesting most of the time. But you're probably also noticing that my mind is over the normal cap at 125. because I learned all of the rare skills, including the Golden Gate skill. This skill is the reason you might want to learn any rare spells, or at the very least build affinity with them. Though if you're going to do that, personally, I would just recommend that you start as Marina and pick rare as your god, since rare circles are easily the least useful circles to make. The other notable skill that I've got here is Unguard. Now, Unguard is a bug skill. It actually does not do anything, but it does have functionality. One thing to note is that it is not mapped to any key in the game by default, even though it says it is. You have to manually map it to something, so I mapped it to the E key. When you press Enguard, it causes you to draw a knife and sorta dash forward. What this is supposed to do is to give you a preemptive strike on the enemy, give you a free ambush turn at the start of the battle. Due to a bug, however, this skill actually does not do anything, so it has a visual effect, but it does not do anything. Yeah, a bit disappointing. Some other skills that I didn't bother to learn, mostly because I missed my opportunity to kill August, but I wanted to mention them nonetheless, is August's skill tree. These skills, there's a couple interesting ones here. The most notable one is Warcry. What Warcry does is cause every single target attack that an enemy throws to target the character who uses Warcry. It's essentially a self-targeting version of Pheromones. However, it's actually slightly better than Pheromones, at least in my opinion, because this skill is guaranteed to go into effect. Pheromones has a 5% chance of missing, which can be a disaster if you're relying on it for saving your limbs, like redirecting an attack that would cost you your limbs onto a blood golem. Warcry, if you use it with a human character who has limb protection, this is a guaranteed way to redirect those kind of attacks, so pretty good in that regard, in my opinion. Bloodlust is terrible, on the other hand. This puts your character into a berserk state where they gain 50% bonus physical attack, but they launch random attacks. They target limbs at complete random, so not good in the slightest. Wouldn't recommend learning this at all. Devour allows you to eat enemies, and for most enemies, you can devour them with no problem. This is a free hunger restore. There are a handful of enemies that cause negative effects if you attempt to eat them, or just cannot be eaten. But otherwise, this is a nice way to stay on top of your hunger, or at least it would be if it was easy to learn, but the opportunities to kill August are pretty limited, so it's unlikely you're gonna learn this skill. One thing to note is that if you devour an enemy, obviously it pulverizes the corpse, so you cannot get their heads from them, so don't use it until you've already severed the head of the enemy. And finally, Sisu is the ultimate skill of August's Hexen line. This is essentially a self-targeting skill that replicates the effect of the Hardened Heart. When Sisu is in effect, a fatal strike will instead just render you with 1 HP. So that is honestly not that useful, since the Hardened Heart just does that infinitely when you have it equipped, and all you need to do is restore your HP to get its effect to reactivate. So this skill, not that useful, but it might be worth keeping an eye on, because Orange has indicated that he is going to be nerfing the Hardened Heart. How he's going to nerf it, I'm not sure, but something to be mindful of anyway. That's hardly here or there, though. The main skill of the hour is Golden Gates. I want to show that one off real quick, so let me get to an area where I can actually use it. Alright, so here we are in the Praheval Church, and this area has a relatively easy to access rare circle, so let's mosey on over to that one, and just enter the rare dimension. It's also convenient for us that this one actually does have a golden gate for us to go through. The other rare dimension in this area actually does not. Bit unique in that regard. Anyway, moving forward, I do have to be mindful, because I'm pretty sure I did not kill Saint-Marie in this run, so if I go too far forward, gonna be forced into a fight that I am not set to actually deal with. Now, let's just be a bit careful here. Yep, there she is. Alright, now heading over this way. We've seen these gates a couple times, but every time they were closed. That is because we lack the Golden Gate skill. However, if you do have that skill, you can enter this kind of creepy hallway. There's a bit of buzzing fluorescent light sound in the background, and various gates that we can enter. So, let's go into this one and see where it takes us. So this one takes us to the apartments. And if we head over to this one right here, we'll find ourselves in the schoolyard, relatively close to the, well, actually, extremely close to the effigy. Here is the mayor's manor and a bunch of Ron Teals. Let's get the heck out of there. Inside here, we're in Tunnel 7. And finally, if we come to this one, the workshop. Wasn't this the start of the game? Let's check this out a little bit more closely. So, if you head into the workshop and go all the way... Hey, it's the janitor! Stupid human! Stupid human! Imbecile! I'll slit your throat and flay you alive! That'll teach you! Come on. We can talk this through. We can get some kind of agreement. Talk? Talk? In this world, strength is all that matters. The janitor drops his guard in arrogance. He doesn't seem to view you as a serious threat. That's gonna be a bit of a mistake for him. Now, if the guard is only, or the janitor is only here if either you failed to, if you did not do the intro, or if you failed to kill him in the intro. Also, he is way out of date here. He stands no chance against us. And we can take his Kasara. Now, the reason you might want to leave the janitor alive and come back through him via Golden Gates is that if you steal from him, you can get 2 rust-colored pearls, and that allows you to, that gives you enough pearls when combined with the other pearls that you can get to, trade them in for a mauler from the, oh, I forget what his name is. I want to say it was the Radiant one who traded rust-colored pearls, but that doesn't really matter. We just killed him and called it a day here. However, there is one other thing to be mindful of in the Golden Gates area. There is a slight secret. So, if I can... Yes, right there. Who's this individual? This person seems to be chewing on something. Interesting. What do you guys gotta say about this? Whoa, this is incredible. This must be the Golden Gates of Rare. What exactly are they? I wish I knew. I was just trying to sound smart. This leaves you a bit speechless, eh? The blinking lights. They give me a headache. Other than that, I don't know. This area doesn't feel too bad. Interesting. There's another room over here. Huh. It's like a kid's room, but that moon imagery, and what is all this junk? Weird. Any comment on that, ladies? Let's pull up the party talk here. In any other circumstance, this would be kind of cute, but it's uncanny seeing stuff like this here. Is this a children's room? Does someone live here? One thing to note is that, well, it's heavily implied that this is Pocket Cat's room, and it's notable that the decor is slightly different if Daan is currently Pocket Cat. Another thing to note is that I believe there is a secret you can access in this area, a secret within a secret, if you have the white key from Osa's text adventure, the secret key that you can get if you pick the right options, which I was too stupid to do. So that's something that's interesting to note. I believe there's a video on YouTube demonstrating the secret with the white key, so if I can remember... Can you guys see that little flashing black spot on the moon there? Creepy. But if I can find it, I will post it in the description below. But that's all I really wanted to show off with this video. Just going over a couple of things that I may not get the chance to, depending on what the next update changes. Plus, I just want to make sure I cover anything that might be worth seeing in this Let's Play. As always, I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you in the next video, which will definitely be when the next update launches. This is just a little Christmas Eve surprise. But yeah, as always, hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, though, goodbye.